Joining us now, Sheriff David Clarke from Milwaukee, and we call him America's Sheriff. Sheriff Clarke, great to have you.
John, it's a pleasure to be on, and hello once again to your listeners.
Sheriff, let's start with baseball, because I'm getting tired of all this politics in Virginia. Okay, so just in like one sentence, Milwaukee Brewers 2019, what do you think?
I think they're overcome by the Cubs. I'm a Cubs fan, John.
I knew that. Oh, I just wanted to get you fired up. I'm sorry they beat your Cubs. Let's see. First they knocked them out of first place. Then they knocked them out of the playoffs. I think you guys lost like 5 of your last 6. And even though you got the guy from Harvard, Theo Epstein, and even though you got Madden from Tampa Bay, and you got all these brains in there, you got to win baseball games, Sheriff. You got to win games, right? And I'm sorry you got knocked out of the playoffs.
You got to have momentum moving into the fall, and the Cubs, they floundered. They really did for the last, I would say, month to 6 weeks of the season. You know, they had like a 5-game lead with like 3 weeks to go, and it just totally collapsed.
I know, right? Okay, now let's get to Virginia for a second. Then I want to get into your reaction to the State of the Union speech. So, Sheriff Clarke, have you followed everything that's going on in Virginia? I mean, Lieutenant Governor, sexual assault allegation, kind of like Kavanaugh. Then we've got the governor wants to, has the statement where he says, after the baby is born, decide. And President Trump called him out in the State of the Union and said it was like executing an infant. Then he's under fire for dressing up as blackface or a Ku Klux Klan. That picture comes out. He's called to resign. Then the attorney general who calls on him to resign, who was his rival, now he did blackface, but I guess he's not going to resign because even though he called for the other guy to resign. Have you ever seen such a mess in your life in 8 days?
Sure, in politics. How many times have I come on your program and labeled politics as a sewer? It's why the term the swamp in Washington, D.C. is very appropriate. Complete meltdown by the Democrats, but I'm not surprised because the Democrat Party is the do as I say, not as I do party. And they've demonstrated it time and time and time again. They really push the envelope in their quest to forward this issue of abortion, which is murder. And I knew this would happen, and many of your listeners did too. See, with the Democrats, it's a slippery slope. They just want to get a foot in the door with stuff. And it's like with the illegal immigration issue. They just want to get a foot in the door and let them come in. And the next thing you know, they want to give them voting rights. So with abortion, it's a woman's choice. Well, just the first trimester. Then they pushed it into the second trimester. States started giving them rights. Now it's the third trimester. And now it's even after the baby is born, they want consideration to kill this human life. This is despicable. It's distasteful. But again, it's the Democrat Party. They're feeling it right now. They've been doing a victory dance and taking a victory lap ever since the midterm elections. But, there's always a warning in politics. I'm a veteran of politics, and it's don't overreach, okay? Don't misread election results, and that's exactly what they did. So they got a crap show now going on in Virginia, and, I'm wondering what the voters are going to do, okay? And I'm talking about the Democrat voters, but I'm also wondering what the RNC and the GOP is going to do because there's blood in the water. Not only is Northam in trouble, but Fairfax, the lieutenant governor, is in trouble with his rape allegation. And now all of a sudden, like you said, he hired the firm that Kavanaugh used, and now all of a sudden he doesn't believe, that the victim should be believed no matter what in a rape. And I find it ironic that the alleged victim here has hired the firm that, the opposite firm. It tells you a lot about lawyers. But not only that, but then the AG comes out in a do as I say, not as I do, and he blasts the governor, for appearing in blackface. But I think it's the Klansman outfit that was the worst of the two transgressions here that should be unforgivable by the Democrat voters of Virginia if they have any integrity. And then now with the Attorney General coming out and saying what he said, the next in line is Kirk Cox, who, as you know, is the Speaker of the House of Delegates. He's a Republican. So I said there's blood in the water here, but I don't think that the RNC and the GOP are sensing it because they should be doing some heavy lifting to push these three guys, top guys, out of there, get this Republican Speaker of the House of Delegates in the governor's office, and then heading into later 2019 and heading into 2020, we shift that state a little bit. It's a swing state, you know that. So there's an opportunity here, but so far it's been a swing and a miss by the RNC and the GOP.
Well, so far it hasn't. Of course, we're going to be live tomorrow in Speaker Kirk Cox's office, live at the General Assembly, where we're going to be doing our show there. Not a lot of...
give him my best, please.
I will give him your best. But, Sheriff Clarke, you're in Milwaukee, so you don't know this. There is no Republican Party in Virginia. It doesn't exist. It's a postal permit and an answering machine with an office with two people in it. So so there is no party. Hopefully this will change that. But the RNC really has to take a hard look at this because elections are coming up in Virginia in 2019. 8 days ago, I gave the Republicans zero chance for keeping their slim majorities in the state Senate or the House. Now they're a favorite to keep the House, I think, pretty significant favorite, and they have about a 35% chance to still keep the state Senate. That went from, in my judgment, 0 9 days ago. So it's kind of an amazing thing. I want to read you the statement from the Democratic Party of Virginia regarding Fairfax on Wednesday. And I just want to read this. It said the Tyson allegation should be taken with profound gravity. Okay, I'm for that. It says in another statement, Democratic members of Virginia's House of Delegates and Senate, these are elected officials, said the facts here are still being determined. Now, I want to say to my audience again, here's what the Democrats are saying about Fairfax's sexual assault allegations from Vanessa Tyson. I'm going to read it again so I can brand it in your brain. The facts here are still being determined. That's their statement. Where were the facts being determined with the accuser of Judge Kavanaugh? Where were the facts being determined in the whole Trump investigation thing? Where were any facts being determined if the shoe's on the other foot, Sheriff? Doesn't this infuriate you?
Well, sure. That's why I call them the do as I say, not as I do party. Complete hypocrisy. You know that. Your listeners know it. But the thing here is that, with Fairfax and this alleged victim, I don't know what happened. You notice I said alleged victim, okay, because I don't know what happened. And the facts should be determined, and I'm sure the facts will come out. Sometimes with this he said, she said. But what struck me, John, is that initially Fairfax, in a very clever way, denied anything. Basically, and not in these words, basically denied even knowing who this woman was. And then when he realized that he had a tiger by the tail here and that there were some things that she knew that would corroborate what happened, all of a sudden now he changed from that to, well, it was consensual sex. Well, he didn't say that when this thing initially broke. He basically gave a statement that kind of, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Who is this? I don't know what you're talking about. So, you can see that, as this thing goes on, we'll get a little closer to the truth. And I'll be willing to give it time. I'm not going to indict Fairfax at this point. But I'll tell you what, and like that column that I wrote several weeks ago in Town Hall, wanted new conservative fighters, we have to be willing to use the same tactics that the left uses. And so I don't have a problem with people going after Fairfax and Northam and this AG right now at all. Because if we're going to start winning some of these political battles, just keep in mind, this is in the political arena now, okay? And in the political realm, the Democrats have dictated the terms of engagement. Right. And they demonstrated that with Kavanaugh. There were Democrats saying Kavanaugh does not deserve due process. Kavanaugh is guilty with no facts. Kavanaugh should resign from the nomination, based on these unproven allegations from 35 freaking years ago, for heaven's sakes. Mm-hmm. The DNC convention that Fairfax was at wasn't that long ago. It wasn't 35 years ago. So, I'm willing to give the guy a chance, but at the same time, I said in this column, we have to be willing to take the rocks that are being thrown at us by the Democrats and liberals, and we have to be willing to pick those rocks up and throw them right back at them. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander in the political arena.
I tell you what, I love what you just said. It is absolutely spot on, because now their level of a hypocrisy has reached a level that I've never seen. And it's like, how can they even do this with a straight face? Because of what they've put. They have no conscience. And, the fact that, even you take the Attorney General, Mark Herring, who was Ralph Northam's ally. This is what's amazing. This was his ally. In fact, Herring was going to run for governor in 2017, stepped aside, cleared the path for Ralph Northam, who was then the lieutenant governor. I'm sure they made a deal that Herring would be next. Herring announced for governor a month ago. I saw him at a Christmas party for the governor at the mansion that we were invited to. Herring announces he's going to run for governor. Then Northam has the blackface photo. Herring calls on him to resign like 2 days later. And it was a cryptic message. It was like a cryptic statement. It was like, there's no place for this. So, throws his friend under the bus. And then somebody taps him on the shoulder, says, excuse me, Mark, we've got this photo coming out of you at college doing the same thing. And then he has this sniveling response. The whole thing is just maddening. And, but the legacy media, Sheriff, is going to let them all get away with it. They're going to all let him get away with it. Could you imagine if these were 3 Republicans? Oh, my God, this would be – you wouldn't be able to pick up a New York Times or Washington Post for a month without this being on the headline, right?
Well, all we got to do is look to the state of Florida. Well, not too long ago, the Secretary of State, a Republican, Mark Ertl is his name, was found to have dressed up for Halloween several years ago in blackface, and he immediately resigned. Immediately. And there was no Republican or GOP member that was going to stand next to him and help him hang on. He just immediately resigned. It was probably the right thing to do for the party. It might not have been the right thing to do for him, but it was for the party. And Democrats on the other side, you have Northam, you have Fairfax that are hanging on. I said early on in a tweet when this story broke on Northam, I said that he's got a chance to survive this because Democrats, some prominent Democrats came out and, they said some things I thought were superficial. There's no place in, our nation for racism, no place in our party. But that wasn't strong enough. They could make this guy resign yesterday if they really wanted to. If Pelosi, Schumer, and some other heavyweights got to this guy, they could make him resign. But they're not interested. So let him twist in the wind a little bit, see how it goes. Hope this story goes away. That's what Northam's counting on. Run out the clock. That's his strategy. Maybe they'll lose interest. Maybe the wolves will go away because the wolves are at the door. But maybe they'll walk away and he'll be able to survive this. That's what he's hoping. But this is going to really come down to the voters and the residents of the state of Virginia. What do they feel? The pressure that they put on can make a difference too. Where are the demonstrations? The daily nonstop demonstrations to get this guy out of here because he's hoping to survive this. And I said, too, in the tweet, it says just as much about the Republican Party if they're going to stand by and watch this and allow this guy to survive. So there's a lot of moving parts here right now, but the longer this goes on, the better it is for Northam.
I agree with you. The longer this goes on and he stays there. Now, he was under tremendous pressure to resign. He survived 72 hours. His press conference Saturday was a complete debacle. It was theater of the absurd. His press conference Friday, and don't forget, this all started, Sheriff, because of the governor's support, and Mark Herring, same thing, support of a late third trimester anything goes abortion bill where Governor Northam got on the radio, not my show, on WTOP, I think in D.C., and said, yes, the baby would be born, and then it would be made comfortable and resuscitated if necessary, and then the mother and the doctor would make a decision. Now, of course, that decision would be, I guess, not whether or not to take it home or put it in a blanket, but whether to keep the baby alive. And the president called him out at the State of the Union and said it was calling for baby execution. This is how the whole thing started, right? Let's not forget that,
right,
Sheriff.
Right, and just to listen to that, it's really sick. But it shows you how far left that party has gone. But, we're not even talking late term. And Northam wasn't talking late term. The question was posed about what if she goes into labor during the abortion and the baby's born. So we're talking about post-birth, for heaven's sakes. And it is murder. It is infanticide. And the fact that they would even, with a straight face, because they have no conscience. The fact that they would even articulate that shows how emboldened that they have become in terms of this. But I think what they're doing, and New York did the same thing, by the way. This thing's going to sweep the country in these blue states. What they're doing is they're trying to prepare ahead of time for a potential shift in the Roe v. Wade if it's taken up by the Supreme Court. Now, Roe v. Wade will not be overturned. Let me make that clear right now. But what may happen is the courts may return some of these rights to the states. And so the states, the blue states are starting to shore up their state laws, allowing abortion and pushing it even further in case the Supreme Court returns it back to the states, because some of the red states will outlaw it, some of the blue states will keep it. So that's kind of what's going on strategically, in a game of political chess here as well. The Democrats always think a couple moves ahead, and the Republicans, on the other hand, are always a step behind. So we'll see how this plays out, but at the same time, a lot is being articulated by the Democrat Party as to how whacked out they are right now and what they're trying to do to this country. And what does it say, too, about Ed Gillespie, for heaven's sakes? Ed Gillespie lost to Northam. How did his opposition research team, if he had one, how did they not find this? This was not that buried, for heaven's sake. It's one of the first things you do with opposition research. You start going over old stuff, yearbooks. You go over tweets. You go over anything a person's written, like if they're running for judge or whatever. That's what you pay an opposition research team to do. How did they miss this? What does this say about Ed Gillespie?
Sheriff Clarke, we're out of time. If I was Ed Gillespie, and of course he ran for governor in 2017, got beat by Ralph Northam by 10 points. I was Trump chairman in Virginia 2016. We only lost to Hillary by 4 points. Gillespie lost by 10. So I did a lot better running the state than he did. But where was that Oppo research? I mean, the guy should file a refund for his whole campaign operation. Oppo guy, campaign manager, the whole bit should get a refund back. Sheriff, we're out of time. I love having you on, sir. America's Sheriff. Go to americasheriff.com, americasheriff.com. Sheriff David Clarke. Sheriff, thanks for being with us, and thanks for that insight, Sheriff. The height of hypocrisy.